Welcome to the Who's Who in a Script Ed Advanced Classroom lesson. This is the third and final video in this Script Ed video training series. If you're a Foundations volunteer, this video is not for you. Please make sure that you watch the Who's Who in a Foundations class video instead. If at any point you have questions during this presentation, please jot them down and submit them along with your EGGS ticket at the end of this video. By the end of this lesson, teachers will be able to explain the unique and shared responsibilities of the lead and support teachers on a Script Ed volunteer team. In a Script Ed Advanced class, you will have 4 to 5 volunteers and the program manager, a Script Ed staff member who's there to support you and the students. One of the volunteers will also be the company point person throughout the school year. Each week, one volunteer will be the lead teacher. This responsibility rotates weekly. Everyone else will act as the support teacher. Let's talk further about the role of Script Ed program managers. All program managers have prior experience as classroom teachers and wear many hats, all designed to ensure a smoothly running program and positive experience for students and volunteers. Program managers are the primary go-between for the school, students, company, and volunteers. They communicate often with schools and students around paperwork, scheduling, program-wide events, and stay on top of attendance and behavior. They also communicate often with you all. They ensure volunteer team meetings are happening and facilitate Slack communication to ensure that you are all successful in planning and preparing for lessons. In class, you can expect program managers to provide real-time coaching and modeling to help you grow in your role as a teacher. The company point person is Script Ed's main liaison for all logistics, reserving the room, troubleshooting technology, food, and managing the guest list. The room should be reserved 15 minutes before class to allow for class preparation in the space and a prompt start time, as well as 15 minutes after class ends for cleanup and a team debrief. Please note that students often will come early because they are worried about being punctual with unpredictable train times and traveling long distances. Students should be given a specific spot to wait until they can enter the classroom. Here's a basic overview of the roles and responsibilities within a volunteer team. Take some time to read through and internalize this. As previously shared, the lead teacher and support teacher roles will be rotated weekly. We'll touch on all of those responsibilities in greater detail over the next few slides. All right, let's talk about when you're up to bat as the lead teacher. The first responsibility of lead teacher is lesson prep and internalization before all lessons. Script Ed has a robust lesson-by-lesson curriculum already created, which lives on GitHub. It's critical that you internalize the lessons you will teach before you are standing in front of a group of teenagers. Successful internalization requires reading through the slides, reading all the teacher notes, clicking on all links, and doing every activity as if you were a student. These actions will ensure that you are prepared and ready to teach. Now that you've internalized, you need to share that information with your team so that everyone is on the same page. The way you do that is to share on Slack the following pieces of information with your team. What is the objective of the lesson? What will be difficult for students? And where do you need support from your volunteer teachers? Now it's time for class. As the lead teacher, you are responsible for delivering instruction. In order to be the best lead teacher, you need to be there early to set up and prepare for student arrival. You are in charge of teaching the content and making that content fun and engaging so that students feel excited and actually learn. You are also in charge of asking for help when you need it. That's why we have a team. The final responsibility of a lead teacher is guiding your team through the debrief process after a lesson has taken place. After class, share your thoughts about what went well during the lesson, what you covered, including what you didn't get to that was on your plan, and what you'd do differently. Seek feedback from your teammates and get their input on areas for improvement. All right, now let's talk further about support teacher responsibilities. Support teachers should review the lesson ahead of class time and give feedback when necessary. During class, they should be modeling positive behaviors for students when the lead teacher is teaching, actively paying attention to the lesson, asking clarifying questions when something might be unclear, etc. They should keep an eye on students and work to re-engage anyone who might not be focused. During independent work time, support teachers are working with individuals in small groups to provide support and guidance. While the lead teacher is giving instruction, you might be tempted to think that you are off duty. You're not. Remain actively engaged. There's always something to do to help move the lesson along. Stay off your phone. That's a bad example for students who aren't allowed to use their phones, and it shows them that you're prioritizing work over the short period of time that you have with them. Also, circulate. Don't stay in one spot. Be moving around the room, looking for opportunities to support the lead teacher or students. Now we're going to learn about the responsibilities shared by the lead and support teachers and require clear communication with your team ahead of class. First thing is zoning. Zoning is the process of dividing the room into equal sections, one for each volunteer. Students will sit according to a seating chart, and each volunteer will be working with one group of students for a predetermined duration, like quarterly, etc. Zones should stay consistent for a meaningful duration so that effective routines can be built and strong rapport can be developed within that group. Zoning the room makes working with a large group of students more manageable. If every volunteer tried to see every student every day, it's inevitable that some students would be missed and teachers wouldn't be clear on who received the support they needed. With zones, each volunteer is responsible primarily for a small group and can effectively monitor check-ins to make sure all students are well supported. Students get to know their assigned teacher well and build positive, close relationships, so everyone wins. Another benefit of zoning is that you've created easy-to-identify groups for group work or pairing without too many logistics. Zones should be adjusted with some regularity so that all teachers get to engage with all students and vice versa. How would you zone this classroom? Because splitting up a room can be an interesting task, we're going to try this one together. Take a second, think about how you would zone this one. We would put the zones here in order to limit the amount of movement that each volunteer has to do. How would you zone this classroom? This might be a good structure so that volunteers are not crowding one another and can have good visibility of student screens. One more. Where would you put the zones here? We might zone the room this way. That's not the only way, though. We could also have zoned by rows or in another way that would be more conducive to teacher support. Another responsibility that is shared among the team is attendance taking. All volunteer teams are required to keep up-to-date records of attendance for their classes. This is an important accountability metric for our funding, and it allows you to keep track of student participation and learning. Teams should develop a routine of recording attendance either during class or just after it ends. All attendance records are due by 3 p.m. on Friday. Paper attendance should be taken and will be kept in a binder in the classroom. This is our backup so that if attendance never makes its way onto the attendance app, you have a way to check. We also have a Salesforce app for our volunteers to use to take attendance. Your program manager will have more instructions about logging in and using the app. At the end of every unit, volunteers will be expected to review students' projects and enter project grades into a Script Ed gradebook. Grading projects will allow teachers to have a strong understanding of where students are successful and where they still need help. Grades and feedback will be provided to students so that they can better understand their progress in the class as well. Each project has its own tab in the gradebook. On the top left, you'll see a description of the project and link to the project rubric. The objectives listed to the right along the top. Under objectives is the class average for each point in the rubric. There's also a section for comments. Each volunteer will be responsible for reviewing projects of the students in their zone and inputting grades into the gradebook. Once all grades have been submitted, your program manager will send out final graded rubrics to students. This should be done within 1 week of project submission. We recognize that there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to roles and responsibilities of the classroom. We've created a resource to help you keep track of it all, called the Volunteer Dashboard. Each team has their own volunteer dashboard with all of the important information and links your team needs to be successful. Now, let's talk through the dashboard. Important announcements and events are highlighted at the top, right there. The next section is the focus area of the week. Your program manager will update this section weekly based on what they see as the needs for your team. Any important announcements about class will live here. The planning section has all the important links you'll need to complete any planning and preparation for your team. Student data highlights some of the important pieces to keep track of student data, like the gradebook, project submissions, and the seating chart. At the bottom is some information about your school and your team in case you forget. Now, page 2 walks through the steps required for planning and preparing for teaching. Step 1, review the lesson you'll teach in GitHub, including the teacher notes, and then please make a copy of the slides into your team folder. When you make a copy, please add the name of your school at the end. That way, the master copy doesn't get confused with your school's personal copy. Step 2, open up your school's daily session document and make edits to the daily session document as needed. Please also put the link to the slides in the daily session document. Step 3, send out slides and the daily session document to your team via Slack at least 24 hours before class with answers to the following questions. What's the objective of the lesson? Here are the parts I think will be difficult for students. Here's what I need from you, my team. And then remind your team who's on attendance and exit ticket duty. Your team will give you feedback, and then it's time for step 4. Make edits based on their feedback and then print class materials. Again, this resource is meant to be a one-stop shop for your planning and preparation. Your program manager will get you connected with this resource as part of your onboarding process. All right, that brings us to the conclusion of this presentation and the end of our volunteer training series. Thanks for learning about the different roles and responsibilities in the Script Ed classroom. Please complete your exit ticket listed on the volunteer training videos document. Make sure you submit any lingering questions there as well. Welcome aboard.